Here in front of us, we have a painting titled Reading Tea Leaves, 1899, created by a man named Harry Roseland. Harry Roseland was a white man from Brooklyn, New York, that was well known for paintings of lower class African Americans.
He particularly focused on the idea of fortune telling.
In this series, Reading Tea Leaves, he illustrates the work of a Brooklyn based Black woman fortune teller. Also, Brooklyn and New York in general was well known for the fortune telling trade in a challenging 19th century economy. For a time period when women, especially Black women, couldn't get well paying jobs or had to work in service to the white family, fortune telling was a practical way of gaining economic freedom as a Black individual.
At least they were in their own homes, and maybe that gave them a sense of independence that might have been valuable.
Exactly. This was how Black women were able to create employment and social mobility. The elder Black fortune teller is reading the fortune to this young white client in a domestic setting with a table and a fireplace in the background. And Roseland is disclosing the conditions of Black people living freely in the North shortly after emancipation through these details.
I noticed that the Black woman, the fortune teller who's reading the tea leaves, is wearing a shawl. Underneath that, she's got a kind of blouse that seems to be torn or a little bit ragged at her left elbow. The skirt or the bottom of the dress that she's wearing looks worn. And it feels like it contrasts with what I presume to be the height of fashion of the clothing of the white woman on the left.
The Black woman elder's clothing is more tarnished, while the white woman has nicer and fancier garments, such as that top hat. This could also be because the image needed to appeal to the white audience, and illustrating the elder Black woman in that sense is least threatening.
And that's really important for us to keep in mind. Who would have looked at this painting? Who was a potential purchaser of these paintings of Black fortune tellers that he did? They were meant for a white audience.
Exactly. Another difference Roseland showed was the difference in age, which emphasizes this idea of elders holding the knowledge and wisdom while the young woman is the seeker. As the fortune teller, they're the seeker of truth. In this instance, the Black woman is empowered because she holds that information, while the white woman is leaning in. In Western art, Black subjects are usually depicted as inferior to white ones, but in this image, she's the one that's empowered and has that knowledge.
It does feel like it reverses that more typical power relationship. But on the other hand, we have a white, well-dressed woman who is of the city and a Black woman who's depicted in a way where she doesn't really seem so much part of the modern city world to me.
And I think that through this depiction as a white male artist, Roseland is reinventing the mammy stereotype. The mammy character was usually shown as a middle-aged, elder, darker-skinned Black woman that was in service to the white families. In the painting, the elder fortune teller has her own business and is empowered, but she is still in service to this white person. He's showing that his main focus isn't just a Black woman, since most every image in his series is in relation to a white woman.
We don't see any interest on his part in the humanity of this Black woman on her own.
Exactly. It's also interesting to me that there are implied lines within the gazes of the subjects. The woman in pink is staring at the cup in the elder's hand, while the elder Black woman is also looking at the cup. We can travel down the Black woman's arm to the parasol in the white woman's hand, which leads us back up to that initial gaze. It creates this interconnectedness.
My eye is also really drawn to the chair that the fortune teller sits on.
The chair has an interesting cloth that's draped over the back of the rocking chair with frills. And Roseland shows this great deal of texture with these brushstrokes. We can also see the texture within the clothing of the two individuals.
He was a painter who could capture the feeling of different textures, like that shawl on the back of the rocking chair that almost looks like it's some kind of fur, or the texture of the cotton shirt worn by the woman on the left, or that brass teapot that sits between them.
And the colors too, they're warm and soft with many pinks and reds, which creates this kind of innocent and intimate environment. And then it kind of has the viewer think about what the actual fortune is saying to her. Maybe it deals with something in her romantic life, given the colors, or maybe it's something that's unknown, that's up to the viewer's interpretation.
This makes this painting incredibly entertaining for a white audience right around the turn of the 20th century.
Many fortune tellers in the mid to late 19th century listed their business in the newspaper to gain more clientele under the astrology heading. And they said they helped with marriages, legal instances, illnesses, and predicting the future. And many critics at the time claimed this practice was pure superstition and not a serious profession, and anyone willing to visit these ladies were foolish, unintelligent, and culpable.
On the other hand, we know that so many cultures across the world practice divination, practice fortune telling, and certainly something that was widespread in various African cultures.
Fortune telling was said to have come from Africa to the United States by the enslaved. They brought their spiritual practices with them as they were forced into a tragic and inhumane lifestyle by colonizers. Spirituality was essential to the Black experience because it provided them with hope and helped to restore their psychic and mental health.
What an interesting painting. Thank you, Savannah, for talking with me about it.
Thank you for your time and discussing it with me as well.